Hi, I'm Dave. This is episode 2 of my Avatar Legends play. This is a Powered by the Apocalypse game that I'm going to attempt to play solo. This episode is going to be a bit of world building, followed by some character generation. So why would I need to world build if I'm going to be playing in an established world? Well, that's because rather than playing in the default eras that are presented in the book, I'm actually going to be playing in an alternate timeline, one in which Aang never disappeared and is able to defeat Fire Lord Sozin and prevent the 100-Year War from ever beginning. And what that does, it opens up opportunities to play different avatars in an alternate timeline, for which I'm going to play the Earth Avatar, which is going to be 2 avatar generations after Aang. So since this is an alternate history, the world is going to be different than the shows, similar but different. And I just want to kind of figure out what is different, what some of that history is, and kind of what the current state of the world is right now. It's going to be kind of like coming up with your truths in Ironsworn, if you're familiar with that. So I will be referring to the shows and talking about it, assuming that you've seen them. If you haven't seen them, then something may end up being spoiled for you, perhaps. Hopefully not, but spoiler warning there, just in case. So, the first thing that I know, if Aang stopped the 100-Year War, then he was also able to stop the air nomad genocide, which means airbenders are alive. Next thing I want to find out is the general time period that this is taking place in. Rather than counting years or anything, there are some natural occurrences that occur in the shows. Things like the Day of Black Sun and Sozin's Comet and harmonic convergence. And those things are going to happen regardless of any events that go on, like any possible alternate timeline. Those are probably still going to happen. So rather than just counting up the years, I'm going to find out what's actually happened. So I'm going to use my Game Master Apprentice deck and just going to draw a card and find out where we are. Just give it a quick little shuffle here. And has the Day of Black Sun already happened? The answer is no, it has not. Something else that this tells me is, who is the Fire Lord? So Sozin started the 100-Year War, and then that was followed. He was followed by his son Azulon, who was then followed by his second son Ozai, who is who Aang defeated in The Last Airbender. However, if there was no 100-Year War, then there would be no Siege of Ba Sing Se, which means Iroh would probably have become the Fire Lord. So since this is taking place before the Day of Black Sun in that same kind of time period, I'm going to say that Iroh is going to be the Fire Lord, who would then be succeeded by his son Lu Ten later on down the line. Another question that I have is, what happened to the Water Avatar? Assuming Aang lives about 70-ish years or so, then this would give us about 30-ish years, give or take, that there's not been an Avatar since we established last time that the Water Avatar has disappeared. I have an idea of what happened to that Water Avatar, but I don't want to say anything out loud. I don't want to set anything in stone right now, because things may change through play. So, what else is different? And to help me figure that out, I am going to turn to the book. Each era that's described in the book has a list of significant themes. These are kind of things that are going on in the world at this time period. Things that adventures might be focused around, and kind of maybe define some of the threats or challenges that the characters might face. And each of the 5 eras has 5 or 6 of these different themes, and what I have done is just made a list out of them. And I am going to take a move out of Geek Gamer's playbook here, and I've got a list. I'm going to roll on it. I'm going to use this to kind of help me figure out what's going on in the world, kind of give me a starting point, a little baseline, kind of determine what's going on right now. I know each of the eras has 5 of these moves, but I think I'm only going to roll 3 and just kind of go from there. I don't want to overwhelm myself with too much going on. So, yeah, I'm just going to roll on these. It's essentially going to be a 2d6, I'm sorry, not 2d6, d66 table where I'm going to roll the earth die for the first number and the fire die for the second number. And we'll see what themes we get. I'm going to have to re-roll some 6s, I believe. So 3, 5. That is going to be Hope in Rebellion. I'm going to need to write this down because I will not remember this before the next roll. Bear with me a second. All right, so Hope in Rebellion. That tells me that there is some kind of rebellion going on. Against who and by who? I don't know yet. We'll get to that. Let's roll again and find out what else is going on here. 1, 1. That is Justice and Revenge. I could see that tying into this whole White Lotus, Red Lotus dichotomy that I talked about in the last episode, where the Red Lotus is out actually trying to kill the White Lotus members. I can see some of them wanting to get revenge or justice, probably revenge. But anyway, let's find out what the third one is, and we can start trying to tie this together. 1, 4, loss and abandonment. So there's my 3 themes that I've rolled up. I'm gonna have to think about this for a minute to kind of feel out how all this is going to play together into an alternate history for the Avatar verse. So the first thing I'm thinking about here is that if you have a rebellion, there's got to be somebody to rebel against. So my initial thought is that in the wake of the Fire Nation rising up and then getting put back in their place, maybe somebody else has come in to kind of fill that gap of oppressor. So let's ask some questions here. Is it another nation besides the Fire Nation that has decided to go on the attack? The answer is no, it is not another nation. So some other group, first one that comes to mind, is going to be the Red Lotus. The same one that is going out trying to kill all the White Lotus members, trying to eliminate all of the world leaders. Maybe that's it. Maybe they're just causing a big stir, and maybe the Red Lotus is that rebellion, and a lot of people are putting their hope in that. Maybe after, but maybe with the Fire Nation getting put back in their place, now people are saying that we don't want any other world leader coming in to do that, to try to take over everyone else. So it could be that the Red Lotus is the rebellion against the world leaders and the powers that be. Or maybe it's just that the Red Lotus is getting a lot of traction right now, and they're the ones that are being rebelled against. Yeah, maybe that's why the White Lotus is now a somewhat out in the open organization where people are actively searching for the Avatar, because they're looking for someone who can help to bring down the Red Lotus. But I think that's what I'm going to go with. The Red Lotus has risen up in the wake of the Fire Nation, Fire Nation's failings, and the White Lotus and others are that rebellion against them. So that just plays right into this justice and revenge. If the Red Lotus are out there killing all of these people and doing all of these things, then of course people are going to want to bring them to justice or go out and get the revenge on them. So I think that's just a natural lead into that. And the loss and abandonment, maybe there's um, family members that are, or families that are being divided because some of them are going off to join the Red Lotus, and people abandoning their families and their friends and their hometowns, or whatever. There's a lot of loss there, or maybe people have lost other people to the Red Lotus themselves, and those are just various ways that those could be implemented. I kind of like this idea of the Red Lotus kind of rising up and taking a prominent place in the world. It kind of leads straight into the character backgrounds that kind of established in the last episode. Um, I'm going to leave that kind of vague. I don't want to make too much detail because I want stuff to be able to come up later. But for now, those are going to be the themes of this custom era. So what else was I wanting to talk about? That's a blank piece of paper. That's not what I wanted to talk about. Oh yeah, this is what I wanted to talk about. I was considering adding these themes to the thread list. I don't know if I'm going to use Mythic per se, or just the Game Master's Apprentice deck, or maybe some kind of weird hybrid of both of them. But I do want to keep up with characters and threads and stuff that are going on. I was considering adding each of these themes to that threads list, and that way if a random event came up, and it could possibly be tied into one of those themes, or perhaps if I just needed to set out on a new adventure, I could roll on those themes and find out like what is going to be the primary theme of that particular adventure at the time. But I will deal with that later. Right now, I want to go on to the character building. So I'm going to be starting with two characters, the Earthbending Avatar and the Firebending White Lotus member. As I said in the introduction video last time, the Earthbender, the Avatar, before he finds out it's the Avatar, is raised by the Red Lotus and kind of grows up in that ideology of thinking that there's no need for the Avatar. But then finds out he is the Avatar. And then there's the Firebender here who agrees to guide the Avatar, kind of teach him and take him to other people who can train him and teach him how to be the Avatar and teach him what that means and why the world needs him. So I had kind of been thinking that this Avatar had kind of been with the Red Lotus by necessity, not necessarily agreeing with what they're doing and their means, but he was kind of taken in by them, so that's why he's with them. And I was thinking that maybe, being the Avatar, even before he knew he was the Avatar, maybe he subconsciously knew that what they were doing was wrong. But now that he knows he's the Avatar, he's afraid for his life and maybe scared of some of the strained relationships that'll occur from finding out he's the Avatar, and possibly even worried about the world's acceptance of him. So as I was thinking about that, here's some of the playbooks that came to mind for the Avatar character. So the first option that I have is the icon. You are an icon of your burden and tradition. You are expected to be its exemplar, its single most important representative, trained up from a young age and saddled with the weight of history. You have been told that you are vital to the world. So most of that just sounds like the Avatar to a T. I mean, it even has this move down here, Yip Yip, where you get an animal companion that you can ride. And all the avatars that I have seen that I'm familiar with, Roku and Aang and Korra, they all had animals that they could ride. So this one seems right up the Avatar's alley. And who doesn't want a move called Bunzu Pippin Paddleopsicopolis III? But my character here was not raised from a young age to be the icon. He's just recently found out he's the Avatar. So I don't know that he's actually at this point yet. So while this is an option, I'm going to put a pin in this and look at some others. Next one I considered is the successor. Hail from a powerful, infamous lineage, one with an impressive and terrible reputation. Your lineage has had a massive impact on the world within the scope of your story. Its reach extends over the whole scope, and everyone in the scope knows of it. This character would be the one next in line to take over something. My first thought would be he perhaps is the son of the leader of the Red Lotus, and he is actually next in line to take over should something happen to him. That would definitely be a tainted past and something to overcome. Now, I do expect this character to become the fully realized avatar and do what an avatar is supposed to do, ultimately be the good guy. So I feel like the successor would be a good one to take if I wanted to go that route of he actually is a part of the Red Lotus and next in line to inherit leadership. Next one I was considering is the Destined. You have been touched by something special, something spiritual and otherworldly. This is somebody who has grand fate in store. That kind of definitely sounds like an avatar to me. Someone that has this great destiny to restore balance. The next one I had considered was the Adrift. You've lived as expected and as told, feeling detached from the world, until now. You've changed, and now you're trying to find out if there's something you're willing to risk everything for. I could definitely see this one being our character here, especially if we go the route of he didn't quite agree with everything that the Red Lotus was doing. But he just kind of went along with it, went with the flow, and now he realizes he's going to have to do something about it. This one, I feel like is a pretty strong contender. The last one that I am considering is the Broken. You've suffered a terrible tragedy in your past, something that broke your whole image of yourself. You felt regret for your role in the tragedy, sorrow over what you had lost, and fear over moving forward. So this is a character who has to overcome these wounds of the past in order to become something different. And I can see this one as our character as well. I think that my original idea for the character was someone who finds out he's the avatar in a group that doesn't want anything to do with the avatar, so he's going to be afraid and he's going to be insecure or whatever other emotions, and he's going to have to overcome that in order to become the avatar. Like I could really see this one working through those wounds, and then once all those are resolved, actually going in to become changing playbooks to the icon or one other that kind of embodies that idea of the avatar. So going back through all these, I'm kind of feeling the strongest about the Adrift and the Broken. I feel like these two would be the closest to the idea that I've had for this character. I think I'm going to go with the Broken. I really like the idea of like having to overcome these emotional wounds, and also it's already got built in. Like once you've overcome that, it's a perfect opportunity to change playbooks and really become one of these other ones that I've already looked at, the Icon or the Destined or maybe some other one. So this is where my heart is. I'm going to go with the Broken for him, for our Earthbender avatar for right now. So next up, I'm going to have to figure out our Firebending White Lotus member. Here's his list of options. First up is the Guardian. You take it upon yourself to protect the people around you in general, but you have someone in particular you keep safe. So maybe he recognizes that the Red Lotus is going to be out to kill the Avatar. So maybe he feels the need to be protective of him, overly protective perhaps. In my vision of the character, I didn't really consider him as being like guardian. I saw him more as being like a mentor, like a trainer, perhaps. So I don't know if guardian is necessarily the right fit. The next one I thought about though was the Elder. You've lived longer than the other companions, long enough to have mastered your training many times over, and perhaps long enough to think you don't have much left to learn. So this character would start with a lot of techniques already known. I think this would be a good choice for someone who is wanting to train the avatar to help the avatar master that element. This one is a strong option, in my opinion, for that character. Next up is the Authority. You lead a faction of relevance and prominence in the scope of your game. Well, he's already part of a faction, that is the White Lotus, although I hadn't really thought of him as the leader of the White Lotus. I guess in theory he could be. I just hadn't really thought of him in that regard. But the next one that I am considering, and the last one I was considering for him, is the Bound. You inhabit a particular role tied to an institution and defined by a set of oaths, obligations, and expectations. So this one right here seems very White Lotus-y to me. Your institution could be a secretive order, and you've got your tenets of your organization that you have to live up to. And even the balance track kind of represents this whole thing I was talking about earlier with the theme of justice and revenge. Like there's duty on one hand and justice on the other, where the Red Lotus has just come in and tried to kill him, so he's probably going to be a little frustrated and angry about that, and maybe want to exact some revenge or justice on them. All the while, this is conflicted by his duty as a White Lotus member and to the Avatar. So out of the options that I've gone through for him, I really feel like the Elder and the Bound are probably the two best options for him. So which one is it going to be? And this is really tough because I really like both of them. So I'm just going to let fate decide. I'm gonna roll this die here. On a 1, 2, or 3, he's going to be the Elder. On a 4, 5, 6, he's going to be the Bound. That is a 6. He is the Bound. So here's my two starting characters. The Avatar is the Broken, who has got to deal with the wounds of his past in order to become a fully realized Avatar, and the Bound, who is helping to teach the Avatar and train him, and all the while keep up his duty as a member of the White Lotus. Now there's a few extra things I've got to determine, like the moves, and I get to add one to some stats or something. I will do all of that off camera. So I think that's all that I really wanted to accomplish in this episode. Next time I'll go over a little bit of the upkeep and what I've chosen on these character sheets, and we'll get started right in on the actual gameplay. So thanks for watching, and until next time, we'll see you later.